So writing sensory break into an IEP isn't good enough. We've done a lot of talk about providing a free and appropriate public education that meets a child's unique needs, that prepares them for further education, employment, and independent living. Remember, I didn't make that up. That's part of IDEA law. It's the foundation of our Master IEP Coach mentorship. For those of you that don't know, the Master IEP Coach mentorship is for parents, teachers, admins, therapists. We are the only training company that trains everyone together in a strategy that promotes collaboration and leadership at the IEP table for everyone. And one of the things that you need to do as a leader at the IEP table is to make sure that everybody understands what needs to happen for this appropriate education to occur. Now, a lot of times we see statements such as sensory break put into an IEP, but what does that really mean? Because my version of a sensory break is different than your version of sensory break, and it's definitely different than an occupational therapist version of a sensory break, and so on and so on, right? So as a former special education teacher in the classroom, so I'm still a certified teacher, but for the last 20 years, I've been traveling the country helping parents and teachers and teams write IEPs. But I know that feeling. I know that feeling of walking in and seeing IEPs and seeing the supports and saying sensory break. And I'm like, what does that mean? Once an hour, we go jump on the mini trampoline for 10 minutes? Maybe that's not a sensory break. Maybe that's actually going to heighten the child. And then we're going to have a quite chaotic rest of the day. But that was my version of a sensory break. So let's just make a decision right now, right? If you see the words sensory break inside of an IEP, ask the question, what does that mean? Can you please describe what that means? And then get that in writing and get it put into the IEP. You can have sensory support plans put into the IEP. What? You've never heard of that before? That's okay. That's all right. If you go, look that up, you're not going to find like every IEP has to have a sensory support plan. No, but you can put a plan into the IEP. You can put anything into the IEP that's going to support a child in achieving that appropriate education. So what does a sensory break look like for this child? What should they have access to? Maybe what should they not have access to? Remember, I just mentioned that trampoline. That's from teacher experience here, okay? That sometimes things that we think are going to be regulating for a child are actually dysregulating for a child. Never assume, okay? How often should the sensory break happen? A child should never be earning a sensory break. What needs to occur so the sensory break is effective? The time, the duration, the location, the activity, all these things. All these things need to be further defined inside of the IEP. So I want to encourage you, as we are here several months into the school year, and there's a lot of chaos that's still happening inside of our school system. We have teachers who have caseloads that have made it, just physically, humanly impossible to be in compliance. I'm just going to call that out. We've got teachers who literally have the amount of IEPs that are in their caseload. If you added up the minutes, it is not humanly possible for them to be compliant in all of the IEPs. For the parents who are hearing this and you're like, whoa, what? Yeah, this is happening and teachers know it, but they don't know always how to advocate for themselves inside of the school system. Sometimes there's backlash when that does happen. Sometimes administrators have no clue that this is happening, and teachers need to bring it to them, and then we can find solutions. And parents, you need to be speaking up and finding out how your child's minutes are being served. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening, but in this chaos, things like defining what a sensory break is for a specific child, it's key to ensuring that a child is able to access their education all day long. This includes, let's talk just about how things don't always go right during a school day. And we have things like substitutes, substitute teachers, substitute paraprofessionals. A lot of times our sensory support plan is key in order for a child to access their education. But if a substitute teacher or a substitute paraprofessional does not know what that plan looks like, or if it has not been clearly defined to somebody in that class staff that they can then relay that to somebody else, then things are going to fall apart. A child is going to have a tough day. They're going to go home and have a tough evening. And nobody's going to really understand why, except for, well, there was a substitute. So if there is a sensory break written into your child's IEP, I am not telling you to call an IEP meeting right now. Let me just make that clear, okay? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's something that needs to be further defined. You can work on defining that with the team. You can get that in writing simply through some emails or some other communication with your team. And you can further define it either by adding an addendum, doing a paperwork shuffle. You can get on the same page and have like kind of like a mini IEP meeting. There's ways to do that. There's all different ways to get this implemented sooner than later. And it doesn't have to be this big production of, 18 people sitting at an IEP table to make sure that the sensory plan is working. Also, can you please get some data before you create the sensory plan, parents and teachers? There are all different types of sensory profiles. There's different type of data that you can take, relating to what the child, needs, what is effective. Because again, taking your best guess might be a place to start, but you have to take some data to define what truly is a sensory support plan versus, they get a 10-minute break playing with a fidget over in the beanbag chair. Like, that's not a plan. That's not a plan. All right. So let's see. We've got some other questions that are coming through. Mustafa, I will get to that question. If you guys have questions about this, just leave them in the comments. I'm going to make sure that I will answer all of them. See, we have Bridget Nicholson. She says, yes, data before creating the sensory plan, absolutely essential. Yes. This guesswork is unnecessary. It causes unnecessary stress for the teachers and for the child and for the parents, for everybody. If we could please get the data, let's put it together, let's get a plan, and let's clearly define that and be flexible with the plan. Don't just put it in there and say, this is the plan. This is the plan. This is how it has to be. If the plan stops working, then we need to change the plan. So taking ongoing data on this plan and making sure that it's still effective is really important. In fact, it might help avoid some other heightened situations if we are proactive in our sensory support plan and making sure that we have all the information that we need to make good decisions. Again, go ahead and keep your comments going below. I have a blog post on masteriepcoach.com that's all about this, talking about sensory support plans and how to include them into the IEP. And that way, and again, if you want to work together, I'm going to highly encourage you, go over to masteriepcoach.com. We have online programs that are happening right now where you can learn to become a master IEP coach. We have upcoming IEP leadership workshops happening in 8 different cities in 2023. And I would love to work with you in person, whether you're coming for IEP leadership for yourself, like a professional development day, which, by the way, parents, teachers, admins, therapists, all in the same room. Most intensive IEP workshop you will ever experience. I promise you that. Those are happening in 8 different cities. Then, if you're like, I want to do this for myself, but then I also want to help others. I want to become a master IEP coach, and I want to open my own IEP coaching practice, and I want to do this. We have those trainings happening in person also. So you just need to let me know. Are you like, yes, I want advanced IEP trainings for professional development. And again, when I say professional development, parents, that means you too. Okay, that means bringing in IEPs and going through a brand new system that's being released in 2023 that I'm so excited about. Okay, so going through a brand new IEP assessment development wheel. And if you're like, what is that? You'll find out more in 2023. But you're like, yes, I want that advanced training. Let me know. If you're like, I want to be a master IEP coach and I want to learn online, or I want to be a master IEP coach and I want to learn in person, just tell me that in the comments. I'll give you the direct link to it. And again, if you're just like, tell me more about these sensory support plans, let me know, and I'll give you that direct blog link too. I'll talk to you guys soon.